happy to be with you today. Happy Tuesday, April 7th, if you've forgotten what day it is. But today I get to bring you the second in our Key to Success series. We're going to have a good one today. We've got Whitney.
Whole world of challenges. But I'm speaking to you directly from the Watson guest room in beautiful Topeka, Kansas. So I hope things are going well in Independence. I was actually at Lake City yesterday, so I've been going into the office one day a week, maybe two, and then remotely working the rest of the time. But I thank you for doing this. I think it's great that the Independence Chamber is working so hard to keep your membership engaged and involved and informed, and that shows the leadership position that the chamber has in the Independence and Eastern Jackson County community. So it's been great to be involved with the chamber the past few years.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And so let's dive into this. So this is named Dynamic Leadership. What does your team need from you now?
And I hear nothing and I see nothing.
Oh, no. We're having a little technical difficulties this morning, so bear with us. We're going to work on them as we can here. Can you hear me now? I feel like I should have my cell phone.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
I gotcha.
Good. So dynamic leadership, what does your team need from you now? This is a time we've never been through before. So what does a leader do people are scared and worried.
I don't hear you.
Can you hear me?
I just heard you just now, Trina. I apologize. This is what happens if you're dealing with the wild, wild west out here.
Well, I'm going to try to make my questions short to the point, so maybe it's easier for you to hear my questions. Can you hear me now? Because you're frozen on my screen.
I just heard screen. Hurry up and ask a question. If you can still hear me, then ask me a question and I can talk.
You can talk. So leadership during a crisis, what does that look like?
I didn't hear your question.
Leadership. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Leadership during a crisis, What does that look like?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Crisis is a very subjective word. I mean, obviously, there's no question about the fact that what we're dealing with now with the COVID-19 pandemic is certainly a crisis. But businesses and organizations face crises of different magnitudes all the time. So I think one thing it's important for folks to realize and recognize is the fact that we always have to prepare for the worst because and hopefully we'll never have something like this again, what we're dealing with now, but probably we will at some point in time. You think back to, major events in my lifetime, obviously the terrorist attacks of 9/11. Who would have thought that would have ever happened on American soil? And yet it did. And we look at what happened in the days following 9/11. And then fast forward a few years to 2008, the financial crisis that everybody thought was the end all of the world in which we knew it. But we bounced back and became stronger than ever. And I think that's what's going to happen here as well when this is all said and done. But I think it's important, especially from a leadership standpoint. President Kennedy said it, I think, better than anyone when he said the time to fix the roof is when the sun is shining. So as leaders of organizations, as businesses, or even leaders inside your home, it's important that we prepare for these bad times when the times are good, because we know that bad times will come again. I, a leader's role is really three things. It's to inspire, it's to motivate, and it's to make our team members feel safe. Simon Sinek wrote a great book called Leaders Eat Last. And anyone who's watching today, if you've never read any of Simon Sinek's materials, now's a perfect time to do so when you may have a little extra time. You can spend your time binge watching Mad Men if you want to. I think your time's probably better spent to really work on developing yourself personally and professionally. But Simon Sinek said that it's the responsibility of leaders to develop that circle of safety. And that circle of safety is about developing a team where we is the dominant force, not me. And so as leaders of organizations, if we take the time to develop our teams, to let our teams know that we value them as people, that we're looking out for them when times are good, when times do get bad, like we're going through right now, we'll be able to weather the storm much easier. We have to recognize, just as today we're kind of under the dark clouds, it's going to get better. The sun's going to come out. We're going to come out of this stronger than ever before. I feel terrible and pray for those families that have lost someone or will lose someone to this virus. But we will, as a nation and as a world, come out of this stronger and better than ever, and it will come. But we also have to recognize there's going to be another crisis coming around the corner. So we have to prepare for that.
Absolutely.
Did you hear any of that?
I heard every single word of it. Your screen froze a little bit, but I could hear every word. So it's coming through. Right. So right now, everybody's working remote. How do you lead a team when you're remote?
Well, I think looking at the positive part of that, obviously, and I can truthfully tell you, I'm working harder working remotely than I do when I'm in the office. So I was at Lake City yesterday for the entire day. Today, my calendar is more jam-packed. I have more things to do. And maybe it's just how I'm wired, but I actually feel more of a responsibility to be productive when I'm away from the office than I do necessarily when I'm sitting in the office. And honestly, there's more distractions when I'm at my regular office than I am at home. My wife is here working from home a good portion of the time. My son's back from college that got canceled early, and my daughter will be here soon enough. But everybody's kind of doing their own thing. They're doing homework. My wife is busy doing her work, and I'm doing my work. We get called into meetings. I get along great with the team I work with at Lake City. It's the best team I've ever worked with. So there's a lot of distractions there. But when you're leading your team from home, the same rules apply. Your job is to inspire your team. So this is a great opportunity. If you have a team, Skype them, not with the same connection that I'm using today, obviously, but FaceTime them or email them or pick up the phone and call them, not for work-related things necessarily, but just ask them how they're doing. Ask them about people, because people want to be led by folks who care about them. And that's really the difference between a leader and a manager. Managers are task-oriented, and leaders are about developing people in order to pull them across to achieve organizational objectives. So take the time to call them, take the time to check up on them, not work-related, but how are you doing? How are you getting along with this? How are the kids managing all this? Do you have enough toilet paper? I mean, anything like that you can do to show that you value them and care about them as a person. It's also a great opportunity to give kudos to your team members. If you're on LinkedIn and you're connected with members of your team on LinkedIn, go to their profile and post a review about them. Talk them up in public and let them know what a great part of your team that those folks are. I'll tell you another great way to give kudos to people is the third person kudos. And that's where, I can tell you, Trina, how much that you mean to the chamber staff and what a great job you do to the chamber staff. But how would it make you feel if I sent your husband a letter or your husband a note that says, hey, I just want to let you know how great Trina is to work with and what a great part of our staff she is and how much we appreciate you letting us borrow her for all the hours that she does what she does. When your husband gets that, then he reads that to you. That's going to make you feel good. It's going to make him feel good. And you don't do it to manipulate. You do it because it's just a to share your respect and your admiration. So there's a lot of ways to do that. What I'll also say, it's not only important to be leaders in the business community and be leaders in our offices and organizations, we need to be leaders in our homes as well. So, our children are probably nervous. They don't understand what's going on. We need to make sure we're taking time to reassure them and let them know that everything's going to be okay, and that we appreciate them and that we value them and the work that they do in home and in the school and things like that as well. But we should know our teams well enough. We know what members of our teams are the nervous Nellies, if you will, the ones that need a little hand holding. Some folks need that. Some folks are very independent. You give them a direction, you give them a tool, and you tell them to go, and they just go get the job done and take care of it. We, by getting to know our teams, that's something that a good leader does. And so we know how we're going to lead and how we're going to support them during these times.
Absolutely. I love it that just talking to them, it doesn't have to be necessarily about work, but just keeping that morale up, talking to them, making sure they're okay. Absolutely. We did have a question come in from Facebook. Can you hear me right now?
I can.
So Lisa Frog from Main Event has messaged in, and she wants to know, how do you lead a team who is on furlough so that they can come back engaged?
Well, I didn't hear the rest of the question. I see it posted there. Thanks, Lisa. And unfortunately, that's a situation that a lot of us are going to have to deal with when this is all said and done. And again, it comes back to making sure that they understand that they're a valuable part of the team. Now, here's the challenge there. And for you HR people who are listening in, I mean, no disrespect to this, but we have to deal with the HR world, right? And the HR folks are out there looking out, protecting the best interests of the organizations and the companies, making sure that we're doing everything legally. So I'm not saying we circumvent that. So we'll need to make sure, depending on the size of your organization, that you're able to speak to folks who have been furloughed. There may be some legitimate reasons why the legal entities for your organization or your HR team may not want you to do that. But hopefully, as a leader, you have a good personal relationship with your employees, so much that you know where they're hurting and you know where they are. And so perhaps you can just kind of give them a pep talk, let them know what an invaluable member of the team that they are and how much you look forward to getting back to the old normal, if you will, getting back to the days where you can work together as a team once again. Engagement is not something that happens overnight. Engagement is a long process. And again, if you pick up Simon Sinek's book, Leaders Eat Last, where he talks about that circle of safety, it's about building a team of we and not a team of me. And so let the people that are on furlough know that you miss them and that they're an important part of the team, and that you can't wait for things to get back to where they were so that they can come join again. And as soon as they do come back, empathize with their situation, let them know how much that you understand the challenges that they must have faced, and that let them know that you're in the same situation in a lot of different areas. But empathize with them, let them know that you care, and be a shoulder for them to cry on if that's what they need during that time. But I'll tell you a good thing that I think that a lot of organizations need to be doing. So I'll tell you one thing we're doing at Lake City right now. Fortunately, we haven't been in a position in a situation where we've had to furlough any of our employees. We're part of the defense industrial base, so we are essential to the defense of our country. So our employees are still coming to work. We are actually feeding our employees lunch every day now. And what we did is we reached out to local small businesses in the area who really were struggling because of the coronavirus situation. And so by buying lunches from local businesses, we're not only helping them by giving them a lifeline with some steady business, but we're also trying to show our employees we care. Now, Are we providing, great Hereford House meals? No, we're not. Sandwiches, chips, things like that. But little gestures like that to let our employees care. Frankly, if you're in a situation where furloughing your folks, they're going to be so excited to come back to work. When they come back to work, it should be a party. I mean, it should be a celebration. It's the prodigal son, right? Except they left by not by their choice, but by the circumstances. I would encourage everyone to, it doesn't have to be anything fancy and big, but boy, celebrate the return of those folks. Celebrate the return of your customers when things get back to the old normal. Welcome them back. Let them know how much you appreciate them sticking by you through good times and bad times. And just, honestly, if you remember how it was after 9/11, everyone was so friendly. Everyone was so supportive. Everyone flew their flags in the weeks following 9/11. And the people are that way now. Everyone's nervous, but neighbors are checking in on neighbors, asking how they are. Boy, I hope that becomes the new normal. I hope that we don't get away from that. And I hope that we take care of our employees, and it's a great opportunity for us to do that.
That's great. Well, and this is such a weird time. Who would have ever thought we would have had to furlough people? And how do you keep somebody engaged when they're just feeling the weight of all of this right now? So I love the idea of a celebration when everybody gets to come back, and we just, we love you. We're glad you're back.
I'm not hearing you, Trina. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Well, hopefully Facebook world is. Okay, so can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I just now did.
Yeah. Okay, let's try this one real quick. So we have another question. So how much do you communicate with your team and the public? So let's see, it's up on the screen here. How much do you communicate as a leader?
Well, I see the question up there from Morgan. So I can tell you that we communicate often. We have regular communication cadence with our organization. Now, communicating with the public is a little different, and I can speak from the aspect of Lake City, because we are a part of the Department of Defense. We are limited to what we can say and what we can talk about just as a matter of national security. But we communicate with our employees several times a day. We have different channels of communication. We have phone numbers that our employees can call into to get messages. We do postings around the plant. We have a TV system. We have signs. We have daily meetings with our supervisors. We do walkabouts with the rest of our leadership team. So you cannot over communicate in this type of a situation. And I think it's a great question, because I think that the natural tendency for folks would be, once folks are out of sight, they're out of mind. And as you're dealing with a remote workforce, that can't be the case. We need to try and keep business running as much as possible. So I can just tell you, as a tip for working remotely, you need to treat the day like any other day. Get up, you make your bed, you put on clothes, you comb your hair, you put on cologne. Even though you can't smell me today, I smell really good because I got the shot of my cologne on. You clean your glasses, you try and eat meals at the regular time that you typically do. And so communication should be the same thing. If you normally communicate with your group at certain times, try and find a way to do that, whether it's getting a Facebook group together, or whether it's just Skyping them or texting them or calling them. I have weekly meetings with my vice president, and so today that's going to be over the phone instead of in person, and we'll talk for 25 or 30 minutes. He'll ask me what I need from him, and I'll ask him what he needs from me, and it's business as usual in that sense. So we need to keep communicating. Now, one thing I will tell you is the biggest mistake that people make is believing that speaking or telling or talking is communicating, and that's not the case. As leaders, we need to make sure that we're listening and hearing what our employees are telling us. And sometimes you have to read between the lines. But that's where we get the opportunities to empathize and to lead our employees. That's where we can really help them to buy into our vision. That's where we can motivate them. When we really have that open two-way communication and we find out what their needs are, and we don't get that by telling them, we get that by asking them and listening to what they're saying. Then we're in a better position to lead that way. But if you're a church, this is a great opportunity for you to reach out to members of your congregation, pick up the phone and talk to them. It doesn't have to be a long call, 5 or 10 minutes. How are you doing? I'm thinking about you. I'm praying about you. If you're a small business, what a great opportunity to call your customers that you maybe are so busy most of the time that you're not able to do that. Call some of your long-term customers, not asking for referrals, not asking for any kind of new business, but just to say, how you doing? I've been thinking about you. Boy, we've been together for a long time. How have you been? Developing those personal relationships, talking to your smaller customers, your customers that may be on the brink of failure or having, do you think that maybe they're not going to be able to weather the storm? Ask them what you can do for them. See if there's someone in your network that you can connect them with that might be able to help them out. So just great opportunities to step up and be leaders. But boy, communication really is key to that. So that's a good question, Morgan.
Absolutely. So it sounds like communication, listening, these are everything you've said today says that just reaching out and talking to people, listening to what they have to say. So
I'm not hearing you, Tree.
Well, I'm going to tell at least the Facebook world if you can't hear this, and I will tell you later when I call you. But thank you so much for being with us today, Whitney. It's inspiring. I love hearing your words, what you have to say.
Are you kicking me off already just because I can't hear you?
I'm going to kick you off, but only because you've given us so many great tips already, and we really appreciate it. So thank you so much for being with us, Whitney. We really appreciate it. There were lots of great tips. So thank you so much. And this will be able to be watched later. So anybody who either caught in on the end of this or you didn't get to watch it, you can watch this later through the Chamber's Facebook page. And we have another one coming up on Thursday. So because I feel like, we're just trying to get information out to everybody right now. And so Thursday, what is that? April 9th at 2 p.m., we will have Felicia Harder with Paychecks. She will be on here doing all things HR. So I know with businesses that are having to do furloughs and layoffs, and what do you do and how do you do it? And, what kind of support is out there for businesses? So I think she will be very informative. Can't wait to talk to her on Thursday. But again, we're happy that Whitney was here. Sorry we had a few technical difficulties, but we will plan to see you 2 o'clock on Thursday. So thanks so much for joining in today.